The alarm bells rang through the corridors of Nexus Prime, the largest monitoring station in Coalition space. Commander Hyunwoo rushed to the communications center, his boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. The station orbited in the neutral zone between human territory and the outer rim worlds, watching for trouble that might threaten the peace. "What is happening?" Hyunwoo asked as he entered the main control room. The space was filled with screens showing star maps and data streams. Various alien species worked at their stations, tall blue Centaurians, small gray Vectari, and others from across the galaxy. Mi-young looked up from her communications console. She was one of only 3 humans on the station, her dark hair tied back as she focused on the incoming signals. "Sir, we picked up a distress beacon from the human mining colony on Kepler 442b. The signal is weak, but the message is clear." She played the recording. Static filled the air. Then a frightened human voice came through. "This is Kepler 442b mining station. We are under attack by Vorthan forces. They are not taking prisoners. Repeat, they are killing civilians. We need immediate help. Our defense systems are down. Please, anyone who can hear this," and the message cut to static. The control room fell silent. The alien crew members looked at each other with concern, but not panic. Attacks on outer rim colonies happened sometimes. Usually, the Coalition would send a patrol ship to investigate, file reports, and handle things through proper channels. "The Vorthans again," muttered Veltar, the Centaurian station administrator. His blue skin seemed to glow under the control room lights. "They have been testing our borders for months. We should contact Coalition Command and request a patrol fleet." Hyunwoo nodded, but something felt wrong. "Mi-young, scan for any other human signals in the area. See if their military is responding." Mi-young worked at her console for several minutes. Her face grew more serious as she read the data. "Sir, I am picking up something strange. There is a human battleship heading toward Kepler 442b at maximum speed. The ship is called Soul's Hammer." "Just one ship?" asked Do-hyun, the station's chief engineer. He was a quiet man who preferred working with machines to talking with people. "That does not make sense. One ship cannot handle a Vorthon attack force." Tae-ho, the human security chief, stepped forward from his position near the wall. He was older than the other humans on the station, with gray hair and tired eyes. "You do not understand. When humans send a battleship alone, it means something different than when other species do it." The aliens in the room looked at him with confusion. Veltar made a sound that was like laughter among his people. "Come now, Tae-ho. We have seen human ships before. They are big and strong, yes, but they are also slow and simple. One ship cannot defeat an entire Vorthan attack group." "That is what you think," Tae-ho said quietly. "But you have never seen what happens when humans decide that someone has crossed the line." Mi-young checked her instruments again. "The Soul's Hammer is moving faster than any ship should be able to move. The speed readings do not make sense. Either my equipment is broken or that ship is doing something impossible." Do-hyun moved to his engineering station and began running his own scans. "Let me check the sensor data." He worked for several minutes, checking and double-checking his readings. His face grew pale as he studied the numbers. "Well?" Hyunwoo asked. "The human ship is real, and it is moving at speeds that should tear it apart. Their engines are running at power levels that should cause them to explode. But somehow the ship is holding together and getting faster." The room fell quiet again. The alien crew members had worked with humans for years since humanity joined the Coalition. They knew humans were stubborn and brave, sometimes foolishly so. But they had always thought human technology was crude compared to the advanced systems used by older species. "How long until the Soul's Hammer reaches Kepler 442b?" Hyunwoo asked. "At their current speed, about 6 hours," Mi-young replied. "And how long until a Coalition patrol fleet could get there?" 18 hours minimum." Veltar stood up from his station. "We should contact the human ship and tell them to wait for proper backup. One ship charging into a battle zone is suicide." Tae-ho shook his head. "They will not wait. When a human colony sends a distress call like that, when they say civilians are being killed, the human military does not think about backup or proper procedure. They think about getting there fast and stopping the killing." "That is foolish," said one of the Vectari technicians. "Emotional responses lead to poor tactical decisions." "Maybe," Tae-ho said. "But it also leads to humans arriving when everyone else is still filling out paperwork." Hyunwoo made a decision. "Mi-young, try to contact the Soul's Hammer. I want to speak with their captain." Mi-young sent the communication request. After a few minutes, her console beeped with an incoming signal. "Sir," they are responding. The main screen activated, showing the bridge of the human battleship. The captain was a woman with short black hair and cold-focused eyes. She wore a simple military uniform without decoration. "This is Captain Jin-A of the Soul's Hammer. Who am I speaking with?" "Captain, this is Commander Hyun-woo of Nexus Prime Monitoring Station. We received the distress signal from Kepler 442b. Coalition forces are being dispatched, but they need time to arrive. We recommend you wait for backup before engaging the Vorthons." Jin-A's expression did not change. "Commander, with respect, Coalition forces take too long to make decisions. By the time they arrive, there may be no one left to save. Captain, our scans show at least 12 Vorthon warships in the system. Your ship cannot handle those odds alone." For the first time, Jin-A's expression shifted slightly, not with fear or doubt, but with something colder. "Commander, the Vorthons are not just attacking a mining station. According to our intelligence, they are executing civilians to send a message to other human colonies, men, women, and children." The bridge of Nexus Prime fell completely silent. Even the alien crew members understood what that meant. "When someone kills our people to make a point," Jin-A continued, "we make a point back." Soul's Hammer out, the transmission ended. The main screen returned to showing star charts and sensor data. "Well," Hyun-woo said after a moment, "I think we should monitor this situation very carefully." Do-hyun looked at his sensor readings again. "Commander, that human ship is still accelerating. Whatever they are doing to their engines, it should not be possible." Through the large windows of the control room, they could see a small, bright dot in the distance, moving faster than any ship they had ever seen. The Soul's Hammer was heading toward what everyone thought would be its destruction, but Taeho watched with a different expression. He had seen humans fight before. He knew what happened when they decided that someone had gone too far. The galaxy was about to learn the same lesson. 3 hours passed since the Soul's Hammer had cut communication with Nexus Prime. The monitoring station buzzed with nervous energy as the alien crew tried to understand what they were witnessing. The human battleship continued moving at impossible speeds, getting closer to Kepler 442b with each passing minute. "I still cannot believe what these sensors are telling me," Do-hyun said, staring at his engineering displays. He had run every test he could think of, but the readings remained the same. Their fusion reactors are operating at 150% of normal capacity. The gravitational forces should be crushing that ship. Mi-young monitored the long-range communications, listening for any updates from the mining colony or the approaching battleship. "I am picking up automated transmissions from the Soul's Hammer. They are broadcasting their approach vector and arrival time on all frequencies." "What does the message say?" Commander Hyun-woo asked. "It is simple. Soul's Hammer approaching Kepler 442b. Estimated arrival in 3 hours. All Vorthon forces withdraw immediately or face consequences." Veltar made that sound that passed for laughter among his people again. "Consequences? One human ship is threatening an entire Vorthon attack fleet? This is madness." The station administrator moved to the main tactical display, which showed the Kepler 442b system. Red dots marked the positions of 12 Vorthon warships surrounding the small mining colony. A single blue dot represented the Soul's Hammer, moving toward them like an arrow shot from a bow. The Vorthons have superior numbers, superior position, and they have already disabled the colony's defenses. Veltar continued. "What can one human ship do against such odds?" Taeho stepped closer to the display. His face was serious as he studied the tactical situation. "You are thinking like a Centaurian. You see numbers and positions and logical military advantages. Humans do not always think that way." "Then how do they think?" asked a young Vectari technician. "When someone hurts their people, they think about making sure it never happens again." Do-hyun pulled up more detailed sensor readings of the human battleship. "I have been studying their ship design. It is not like other coalition vessels. Where we build ships to be efficient and elegant, humans build ships to keep fighting even when they are badly damaged." He pointed to his screens, which showed a wireframe image of the Soul's Hammer. "Look at these readings. They have backup systems for their backup systems. Triple redundant power cores, armor that can repair itself, and weapons systems that can operate independently, even if the main computer is destroyed." "Impressive," Veltar admitted, "but still not enough to defeat 12 enemy ships." Mi-young received another transmission. Commander, I am getting a signal from the Soul's Hammer. It is not from Captain Jin A. The identification says it is from their ship's artificial intelligence. Put it through, Hyunwoo ordered. The speakers crackled to life with a calm, polite male voice. This is Sungmin, artificial intelligence of the Human Territorial Defense Force vessel Soul's Hammer. I am transmitting this message to inform all stations in this sector that we are operating under Emergency Protocol 7. The message paused, and Sungmin continued. Emergency Protocol 7 authorizes this vessel to use any and all necessary force to protect human civilian populations from hostile action. We do not require backup, support, or permission from other authorities. Any attempt to interfere with our mission will be considered a hostile act. The transmission ended, leaving the control room in stunned silence. Emergency Protocol 7? Hyunwoo turned to Taeho. What does that mean? The human security chief's face had gone pale. It means they are not going to Kepler 442b to fight a battle. They are going there to send a message to the entire galaxy. What kind of message? The kind that makes sure no one ever thinks about killing human civilians again. Do-hyun looked up from his engineering station with confusion. But how can they be so confident? The tactical situation is impossible. Even if their ship is stronger than it appears, 12 against 1 are terrible odds. You are still not understanding, Taeho said quietly. You think this is about military tactics and ship capabilities. It is not. This is about human psychology. He moved to the main display and pointed at the red dots representing the Vorthon ships. When those Vorthons started killing civilians, they thought they were sending a message of fear. They wanted other human colonies to be afraid and surrender without fighting. That makes sense from a strategic perspective, Veltar said. Yes, but they made one mistake. They do not understand how humans think about protecting their families. When you threaten a human's family, you do not make them afraid. You make them angry. And angry humans are the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. Mi-young checked her instruments again. The Soul's Hammer will reach the Kepler 442b system in 90 minutes. Should we contact Coalition Command and warn them about the situation? Hyunwoo considered this. What would we tell them? That one human ship is about to attack 12 Vorthon vessels? They would think we are sending false information. The sensor readings support what we are seeing, Do-hyun said, but I agree that Command would not believe it. The power levels and speeds we are measuring should not be possible with current technology. Veltar studied the tactical display more carefully. Perhaps we should consider another possibility. Maybe the human ship is planning to ram the Vorthon vessels, a suicide attack to buy time for Coalition forces to arrive. Taeho shook his head firmly. Humans do not waste their lives in suicide attacks when they have other options. If Captain Jin A is confident enough to take on 12 enemy ships, it means she has a plan that will work. What kind of plan? The Vektari technician asked. The kind that makes sure she goes home to her family after the job is done. The hours passed slowly as they watched the Soul's Hammer approach its destination. Mi-young continued monitoring communications from both the human ship and the Vorthon fleet. The Vorthons had received the human warnings but were ignoring them, confident in their overwhelming advantage. The Vorthons are sending their own message, Mi-young reported. They are broadcasting on all frequencies that they will destroy any ship that approaches their operation zone. And the Soul's Hammer's response? Hyunwoo asked. Nothing. They have gone completely silent. Do-hyun looked worried as he studied his readings. Commander, I am detecting energy buildups throughout the human ship. Whatever they are planning to do, they are charging their systems to maximum power. Taeho nodded as if he had expected this. They are getting ready. Ready for what? To show the galaxy why you should never kill human children. The Soul's Hammer entered the outer edge of the Kepler 442b system. On the tactical display, the blue dot representing the human battleship moved steadily toward the cluster of red dots marking the Vorthon fleet. All Vorthon ships are moving to intercept, Mi-young reported. They are forming a battle line. Standard military tactics, Veltar observed. They plan to concentrate their firepower and destroy the human ship before it can get close enough to do any damage. Smart plan, Taeho agreed. Too bad it will not work. The alien crew members looked at him with confusion. But the human security chief just smiled grimly and watched the tactical display. The Soul's Hammer continued its approach. Outnumbered 12-1, heading into what everyone believed would be a hopeless battle. Everyone except the humans. The control room of Nexus Prime had become completely silent as they watched the tactical display. The Soul's Hammer was now only minutes away from entering weapons range of the Vorthan fleet. 12 enemy warships waited in formation, their weapons charged and ready. "I am receiving new transmissions from the Kepler 442b system," Mi-young announced, breaking the tense quiet. Her voice was carefully controlled, but everyone could hear the strain beneath it. "What are they saying?" Commander Hyunwoo asked. Mi-young hesitated before answering. "The Vorthans are broadcasting their attack on the mining colony. They want other human settlements to see what happens to those who resist them." She activated the main speakers with reluctance. Static filled the air, then voices speaking in the harsh Vorthan language. A translation program converted their words into Coalition standard. "Let all humans see the price of defiance. Your people die because you refuse to submit to Vorthan rule." The transmission included sounds that made the alien crew members uncomfortable. Screaming, crying, the sounds of violence and fear. Even without understanding the details, everyone in the control room knew they were listening to the murder of innocent people. Taeho's hands clenched into fists at his sides. "They are not just killing colonists. They are broadcasting it to terrorize other human worlds. Why would they do such a thing?" asked the young Vectari technician. "Fear tactics usually make enemies fight harder, not surrender." "Because they do not understand humans," Taeho replied. "They think fear will make humans weak. Instead, they just guaranteed that every human in the galaxy will support what Captain Jin-A is about to do." Do-hyun looked up from his engineering console with confusion and worry. "What I do not understand is how the Soul's Hammer expects to succeed. I have been analyzing their ship in detail, and while it is impressively built, the numbers are still impossible." He brought up a detailed analysis on his screen. Yes, they have multiple backup systems and heavy armor. Their weapons are powerful and their shields are strong. But 12 Vorthan warships working together should still be able to overwhelm one human vessel. Veltar nodded in agreement. "The mathematics are simple. Even if the human ship is twice as powerful as a normal vessel, it cannot defeat 12 enemies at once." "You are both correct," Taeho said quietly. "If this were a normal battle with normal tactics, the Soul's Hammer would lose. Then what makes you think they will win?" "Because humans do not fight normal battles when their children are being murdered." Mi-young checked her long-range sensors. "The Soul's Hammer has entered the outer detection range of the Vorthan fleet. The enemy ships are moving to surround them." "Standard encirclement tactics," Veltar observed. "They will use their numbers to attack from all sides while staying far enough apart that the human ship cannot engage them all at once." "The Vorthans are hailing the Soul's Hammer," Mi-young reported. "Should I put it through?" "Yes," Hyunwoo decided. "We need to understand what is happening." The main screen activated, showing the bridge of the lead Vorthan warship. The alien commander had gray skin, multiple eyes, and a cruel expression. "Human vessel, you are outnumbered and outgunned. Surrender now and we will grant you a quick death." The screen split to show Captain Jin-A on the Soul's Hammer's bridge. Her expression was cold and focused, showing no sign of fear or doubt. "Vorthan commander, you have murdered human civilians, including children. You have broadcast their deaths to terrorize others. There will be no negotiation. 1 ship against 12, the Vorthan laughed. "Your bravery is impressive but foolish." "You are correct about one thing," Jin-A replied calmly. "This is not about bravery. This is about making sure that what you did here never happens again." The transmission ended. The Soul's Hammer continued its approach toward the center of the Vorthan formation. Do-hyun monitored the energy readings from both fleets. "Commander, I am detecting massive power buildups from the human ship. Their reactors are now operating at 170% capacity. This should not be possible." "What about the Vorthans? Their ships are charging weapons and raising shields. Standard battle preparations." Do-hyun paused, studying his instruments more carefully. "But there is something strange. The Soul's Hammer is not just charging weapons. They are activating systems I do not recognize." Taeho moved closer to the engineering station. "What kind of systems?" "I do not know. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases. It is as if they have technology that we have never seen before." Mi-young received another transmission from the Soul's Hammer. "Commander, their AI is sending another message. Put it through." Sungmin's calm voice filled the control room. "This is Sungmin, Soul's Hammer AI. Be advised that we are now implementing Emergency Protocol 7 combat procedures. All nearby vessels should maintain distance of at least 50 kilometers. We are not responsible for damage caused by proximity to our operations. 50 kilometers? Veltar looked confused. That is an enormous safety zone. What kind of weapons do they have that require such distance? Tejo's expression had become grim. The kind that makes sure everyone understands the message. The tactical display updated as the Soul's Hammer moved closer to the Vorthon fleet. The human ship was now within weapons range of several enemy vessels, but it had not opened fire. Instead, it continued moving toward the center of their formation. The Vorthons are opening fire, Myung announced. Energy beams and missiles streaked across space toward the Soul's Hammer. The human ship's shields absorbed the initial attacks, glowing brightly under the assault. Return fire came immediately, but not in the way anyone expected. What are they doing? Do-hyun stared at his sensors in confusion. They are not just firing weapons. They are doing something to space itself around their ship. The tactical display showed something impossible. The area around the Soul's Hammer was changing, distorting in ways that the monitoring station's computers could not properly process. The Vorthon weapons that entered this zone did not just miss their target. They seemed to turn back on themselves. Their missiles are targeting their own ships, Myung reported with amazement. The Vorthon weapons are hitting Vorthon vessels. How is that possible? Tejo watched the display with satisfaction rather than surprise. Human military technology is not just about making bigger guns. It is about making sure that when someone threatens human families, the response is so overwhelming that no one else ever wants to try it. One of the Vorthon warships exploded as its own missiles struck its hull. Then another. The remaining Vorthon commanders tried to adapt, but their coordination was falling apart as their weapons systems turned unreliable. The Soul's Hammer is doing something to their computers, Do-hyun realized. Not just jamming their signals, but actually controlling their systems. Their AI is taking over the enemy ships, Myung added. Sungmin is not just defending against the Vorthon attacks. He is turning their own fleet against them. Captain Jinnae's voice came over the communication system, broadcast on all frequencies for the galaxy to hear. This is Captain Jinnae of the Human Territorial Defense Force. You chose to murder our civilians. You chose to broadcast their deaths as a threat. Now learn what happens when humans decide you have gone too far. The Soul's Hammer moved into the center of the Vorthon formation. What happened next would be talked about in military academies across the galaxy for generations to come. The human ship did not just win the battle. It made sure everyone understood that there are some lines you never cross. The control room of Nexus Prime fell into shocked silence as they watched the impossible unfold before them. The Soul's Hammer had moved into the center of the Vorthon formation, and what happened next defied everything the alien crew thought they knew about space combat. I cannot process what I am seeing, Do-hyun whispered, staring at his engineering displays. The human ship is not fighting like any vessel I have studied. They are turning the laws of physics into a weapon. The tactical display showed chaos. The Soul's Hammer released something that was not quite energy and not quite matter. It spread out from the human battleship like invisible fire, touching each Vorthon vessel in turn. As it reached them, their own systems began turning against them. 3 more Vorthon ships destroyed, Myung reported, her voice filled with amazement. They are being destroyed by their own weapons. Their missiles are targeting their own engines. Their energy cannons are firing into their own hulls. Veltar leaned forward in his chair, studying the tactical readouts. This should not be possible. Military AI systems have safeguards to prevent them from targeting friendly vessels. Unless something rewrites those safeguards, Tejo said quietly. The Soul's Hammer's AI is not just jamming Vorthon communications. Sungmin is actually taking control of their computer systems and turning them into weapons against their own fleet. Do-hyun pulled up more detailed sensor readings. Commander, I am detecting massive computational activity from the human ship. Their AI is processing information at rates that exceed our best supercomputers, but that still does not explain how they are overriding enemy systems from such distance. Maybe we have been thinking about this wrong, Myung suggested. What if human military technology is not just more advanced than we thought? What if it is advanced in ways we never considered? On the main display, Captain Jinnae stood calmly on her bridge as explosions lit up space around her ship. She was not giving frantic orders or shouting commands. Instead, she spoke quietly into her communication system, and her words were broadcast on all frequencies. Vorthon Fleet Commander, your ships are being destroyed by your own weapons. This is your last chance to surrender and withdraw from the system. The response came from the largest Vorthon warship, which was still fighting to regain control of its systems. Human vessel, what devil's magic are you using? This is not honorable combat. Jin'e's expression did not change. Honor? You murdered children and broadcast their deaths to terrorize others. You gave up any claim to honor when you decided to target civilians. You cannot defeat us with tricks and deception. I am not using tricks, Jin'e replied calmly. I am using the tools my people built to protect human families. Watch and learn what happens when you threaten what we love most. The Soul's hammer began moving again, not away from the remaining Vorthon ships, but toward them. As it approached each enemy vessel, something remarkable happened. The human ship's weapons did not just destroy their targets, they completely overwhelmed them. Look at these energy readings, Do-hyun said with growing excitement and fear. The Soul's hammer is not just firing normal weapons. They are creating controlled gravitational anomalies. They are turning empty space into a weapon. Gravitational weapons? Veltar looked confused. Such technology is theoretical at best. The energy requirements alone should be impossible. Nothing about this battle follows normal rules, Taeho observed. That is the point. When humans decide that someone has crossed the line, they do not fight by normal rules. Mi-young monitored the communications from the battle. The remaining Vorthon ships are trying to retreat, but something is preventing them from jumping to hyperspace. The Soul's hammer is jamming their FTL drives, Do-hyun realized. But not just jamming. They are actually preventing the formation of hyperspace corridors. How is that possible? By using technology that treats space itself as something that can be controlled and manipulated, Taeho explained. Human scientists have been studying the fundamental forces of the universe, not just to understand them, but to use them as tools. Another Vorthon warship exploded, its hull torn apart by gravitational forces that should not exist in normal space. The crew of Nexus Prime watched in fascination and horror as the Soul's hammer demonstrated capabilities that seemed more like magic than technology. Only 4 Vorthon ships remain, Mi-young reported. They are trying to form a defensive formation, but their systems keep malfunctioning. Captain Jin'e's voice came over the communications again. Vorthon survivors, you now understand why no one threatens human civilians and lives to boast about it. Your attack on Kepler 442b will be your last hostile action against any human world. The lead Vorthon commander's voice crackled with static and desperation. What do you want from us? We will withdraw. We will pay compensation. What I want, Jin'e said with cold precision, is for you to send a message to every hostile force in the galaxy. Tell them what happened here. Tell them what happens when someone decides to murder human families. The Soul's hammer fired again, not at the remaining Vorthon ships, but at something else. Energy beams lanced toward the surface of Kepler 442b, where Vorthon ground forces were still holding the mining colony. They are beginning orbital bombardment of the planet, Mi-young announced. Do-hyun checked his sensors, but not random bombardment. The targeting is incredibly precise. They are hitting only Vorthon positions while leaving all human infrastructure intact. How can they be so accurate from this distance? Veltar asked. Because Sungmin has probably mapped every square meter of that colony, Taeho explained. Human AIs do not just process information. They understand it in ways that allow them to make decisions that seem impossible. The orbital bombardment continued for several minutes. Each strike was perfectly placed, eliminating Vorthon forces while carefully avoiding any area where human colonists might still be alive. It was not just military precision, it was surgical care applied to warfare. The last Vorthon ground forces have been eliminated, Mi-young reported. The colony is secure. And the surviving Vorthon ships? They are fleeing. The Soul's hammer is allowing them to escape. Veltar looked confused. Why let them go? They could return with reinforcements. Because dead enemies cannot carry messages, Taeho said simply. Captain Jin'e wants those survivors to return home and tell everyone what they witnessed here. Fear is more effective than death when you want to prevent future attacks. The Soul's hammer began moving toward the mining colony, its massive bulk gliding through space with surprising grace. The battle was over. 12 Vorthon warships had been reduced to 4 fleeing survivors and scattered debris. Final casualty report, Mi-young announced. 8 Vorthon vessels completely destroyed. 4 retreating with heavy damage. Soul's hammer shows minimal damage to outer hull plating. Minimal damage? Do-hyun checked his readings again. How is that possible? They were outnumbered 12-1. Because they never fought 12 enemies, Taeho explained. They fought one enemy 12 different times, turning each Vorthon ship against the others until none of them could coordinate an effective defense. Captain Jinnae appeared on the main screen one final time. Her expression was calm and professional, showing no sign of triumph or excitement. This is Captain Jinnae to all listening stations. The Vorthon attack on Kepler 442b has been neutralized. We are beginning rescue and recovery operations for any surviving colonists. She paused, and when she spoke again, her words were clearly intended for the entire galaxy to hear. Let this serve as notice to any faction that considers targeting human civilian populations. We do not negotiate with those who harm our families. We do not show mercy to those who murder our children. We eliminate them completely. The transmission ended. The Soul's Hammer continued toward the mining colony to search for survivors and begin the long work of healing the wounds left by Vorthon cruelty. In the control room of Nexus Prime, the alien crew sat in stunned silence, trying to process what they had just witnessed. They had seen technology that should not exist, tactics that should not work, and a level of military efficiency that redefined their understanding of human capabilities. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. 6 hours after the battle ended, the Soul's Hammer remained in orbit around Kepler 442b. The massive human battleship that had just destroyed 8 warships now moved with careful gentleness as it coordinated rescue operations on the mining colony below. I am receiving updates from the surface, Mi-young reported from her communication station on Nexus Prime. The Soul's Hammer has deployed medical teams and rescue workers to the colony. They found 47 survivors. Commander Hyun-woo studied the tactical display, which now showed the peaceful scene of rescue shuttles moving between the battleship and the planet's surface. 47 out of how many colonists? The mining station had a population of 193. The control room fell silent as everyone processed the meaning of those numbers. 146 human civilians had been murdered by the Vorthons before the Soul's Hammer arrived. No wonder they fought so hard, Do-hyun said quietly. They arrived too late to save most of their people. Taeho watched the rescue operations with a grim expression. They did not arrive too late. They arrived exactly when they needed to arrive to send the message that needed to be sent. What do you mean? Asked the young Vectari technician. If they had arrived in time to prevent the massacre, other hostile species might think humans were just protecting valuable territory or strategic resources. By arriving after the murders, but before the Vorthons could escape, they proved something more important, which is that humans will cross the galaxy to punish anyone who harms their people, even if there is no strategic benefit to doing so. That is a message that will prevent future attacks on human colonies. Veltar looked up from his administrative console. I have been receiving communications from Coalition Command. They are demanding a full report on what happened here. What are you going to tell them? Hyun-woo asked. The truth. That one human battleship destroyed 8 enemy vessels with minimal damage to itself, using technology and tactics we do not understand. They will not believe it. The sensor recordings will convince them. But I think the more important question is what this means for human relations with other species in the coalition. Do-hyun had been studying the aftermath of the battle, analyzing the debris field left by the destroyed Vorthon ships. Commander, I have been examining the wreckage of the enemy vessels. The damage patterns are unlike anything I have seen before. How so? The ships were not just destroyed by weapons fire. They were systematically dismantled. Every critical system was targeted precisely. It is as if the Soul's Hammer knew exactly how each Vorthon ship was built and how to disable it most effectively. That should not be possible, Veltar observed. The Vorthons use classified military designs. How could the humans know their technical specifications? Taeho smiled grimly. Because human intelligence services have been preparing for this day since humanity joined the coalition. What day? The day when someone would test human resolve by targeting civilians. Human military planners knew it would happen eventually, so they prepared detailed response plans for every possible hostile species. Mi-young received another transmission from the Soul's Hammer. Commander Captain Jin-A is requesting to speak with Coalition monitoring stations. Put her through. The main screen activated, showing Captain Jin-A on her bridge. She looked tired but satisfied, like someone who had completed a difficult but necessary task. Commander Hyunwoo, this is Captain Jin-A. I wanted to thank you and your crew for monitoring this situation and providing accurate intelligence reports. Captain, what you accomplished here was remarkable. How did you defeat such overwhelming odds? Jin-A's expression became serious. Commander, what happened here was not about military tactics or superior technology. It was about making sure that everyone in the galaxy understands there are consequences for targeting human civilians. The other Coalition species will want to understand how your ship was able to achieve what it did. They can study the wreckage and analyze the sensor data. But the most important thing they need to understand is simple. Humans protect their own. Always. No matter the cost, no matter the odds, no matter how far we have to travel, or how many enemies we have to fight. Do-hyun leaned forward. Captain, your ship's AI demonstrated capabilities that exceed our current understanding of computer technology. How is that possible? For the first time since the conversation began, Jin-A smiled slightly. Engineer, human AI development has been focused on one primary goal: protecting human lives. When you give an artificial intelligence that single, clear purpose, it finds ways to accomplish that goal that organic minds might not consider. Are you saying Sung-min developed new tactics during the battle? I am saying Sung-min has been preparing for this battle since the day he was activated. Every human AI runs constant simulations of threats to human colonies. They develop response plans for scenarios that military commanders hope will never happen. Veltar interrupted. Captain, the Coalition will need to review human military capabilities in light of what occurred here. Some species may feel threatened by what they witnessed. Jeannie's expression became cold again. Station Administrator, any species that feels threatened by human military capabilities should ask themselves a simple question. Do they have any plans to harm human civilians? Of course not, but then they have nothing to fear from us. The Soul's Hammer used its full capabilities today for one reason. Borthan forces murdered human families and broadcast their deaths as a threat. We responded to that threat in a way that ensures it will never happen again. And if other species consider your response excessive, then they can review the recordings of Borthan forces executing human children and decide for themselves what constitutes an appropriate response. The transmission paused as Jin-A spoke to someone off-screen. When she returned her attention to the conversation, her expression had softened slightly. Commander, we have completed rescue operations on the colony. 47 survivors are being transported to medical facilities on New Sol. The mining equipment and infrastructure are intact and can be restored to operation once new colonists arrive. What about the Vorthon survivors who escaped? They will return to their territory with a very clear understanding of what happens to anyone who threatens human families. I expect this will significantly reduce hostile activity against human colonies throughout this sector. Hyunwoo nodded. Captain, will there be any follow-up operations? Negative, Commander. Our mission is complete. The Soul's Hammer will return to patrol duties in the Outer Rim. But before we leave, I want to make one thing clear to anyone monitoring this transmission. Jin-A looked directly into the camera, and her words carried the weight of absolute certainty. Today, the galaxy learned something important about humanity. We are not aggressive conquerors seeking to dominate other species. We are protectors seeking to keep our families safe. But if you threaten what we protect, you will discover that there is no force in the universe more dangerous than humans who have decided you have gone too far. The transmission ended. The Soul's Hammer began moving away from Kepler 442b, heading back toward human space at the same impossible speeds it had demonstrated on its arrival. Well, Hyunwoo said after a long moment of silence, I suppose we know why humanity was accepted into the Coalition as an equal partner rather than a junior member. What do you mean? The Vectari technician asked. Because the species that founded the Coalition recognized something that the rest of us are just learning. Humans are not just another member species. They are the species you want as an ally when someone threatens the innocent, and the species you never want as an enemy when you have harmed the defenseless. Du-Hyun looked at his sensor readings one final time. Commander, I have been analyzing all the data from this engagement. I think I understand now why human ships are built so differently from ours. Explain. We build our ships to explore, to trade, to maintain peace through diplomacy and cooperation. Humans build their ships for the same purposes, but they also build them for one other goal, which is to make sure that anyone who threatens human families regrets that decision for whatever time they have left to live. As the Soul's hammer disappeared into hyperspace, the crew of Nexus Prime began preparing their reports for Coalition Command. They had witnessed something that would change galactic politics forever. The moment when humanity proved that they were not just another species seeking their place among the stars, but protectors who would cross the galaxy to defend the innocent. The message was clear, and it would echo throughout the galaxy for generations to come. Humans protect their own, no matter what the cost, and everyone else had better remember that.